Hey everyone, Mark the Movie Man here. Welcome to the final cut, and I've reviewed all the other films in this franchise, so I figured I'd give you my thoughts on the final chapter in the Hunger Games franchise, Mockingjay Part 2. Probably one of the most anticipated films of 2015 by many people. We get the final story end, the bookend, if you will, of this great epic story of Katniss, who in Part 2, it picks up right after the events of Part 1. Katniss is trying to recover from her attack from Peeta, and the districts are ready to make their push on the capital. Katniss has her own plans, though. While she is being used for more propaganda videos behind enemy lines, she wants to get close to President Snow and off him to bring peace and freedom to Pan Am. At least that's what she thinks the solution will be, by killing him. And we see how she tries to enact this plan with a small group of her closest soldiers, if you will, who have been past victors. And we get to see our favorite Hunger Games victors try to get close to President Snow so Katniss can do what she's always wanted to do and kill him. Yes, here we are, Mockingjay Part 2, and let me tell you, Francis Lawrence, one thing that I really enjoyed that he did from when he took over from Part 1 was the fact that he brought the darker tone in, and here we really get the darker tone in here, and that would help me appreciate this, because the type of story this is, it needs to be darker, and it is in here. You get some unexpected deaths in here, some unceremonious deaths by some of the, yes, minor characters, but characters that we know their names, we've seen them, and some people have even grown fans of them. So I really enjoyed that fact that we didn't have a big hype or the big extended death for some of these characters, because that felt a little more realistic, like war. We also have Katniss, who's been very damaged, not only by the war and battles that she's fought in the Hunger Games, as well as psychological battles with President Snow and dealing with her internal emotions, but she's just damaged in general from being a pawn to everybody. And she's a strength. I mean, she's a very strong character. She's a fantastically strong female character, though there's people that are constantly trying to manipulate her for their own means, and that can be exhausting, and that comes across in Jennifer Lawrence's performance, which is phenomenal in here. You can tell here by the fourth film, this character is like a second skin to her, and she really puts in a top-notch performance. Now, everybody else does well in here, too. It's always great to see Woody Harrelson back. They got just about everybody from the other movies that have lived back for this film. And for me, though, one of my favorite characters still to this day is Effie, played by Elizabeth Banks. I love Elizabeth Banks in this role, and we don't get to see her too much in this film, but the scenes we do see, she makes the most of. And I would love to see a film, a little small film, if you will, even just having this entire story be told from her perspective. I think it would be great, because Elizabeth Banks plays Effie so well, and it's just a lovable character, and my favorite character out of this entire franchise. Sutherland, of course, does great as President Snow as well, and the scene that you have in there with between him and Jennifer Lawrence when they meet face to face is really intense and really well done, and I enjoyed that as well. Now, the pacing of this film is a little rough, I will say. I think they could have trimmed it down as well. I don't think this film needed to be 2 hours long, especially since we had the 2-hour-long Part 1. In fact, I think both of these could have probably been whittled down to about an hour and a half, and either made one long 3-hour movie, or keep them at an hour and a half chunk a piece, because then you can move them along a little more quickly than these films do go. So this one, again, is a little clunky as far as its pacing goes, and a few scenes feel drawn out, but it does get dark, especially near the end, which surprised me, some of the places they went, in a good way. Folks, Hunger Games has been my favorite of the young adult franchise books turned into movies, and this one I think is a decent send-off, though I could have used an ending 5 minutes sooner than they did. They didn't need to do like Lord of the Rings with like 3 resolutions going on. But outside of that, on the whole, this was worth your time and money. I think fans of the movies will enjoy this film. I give it the same as Part 1, 4 stubs. Not quite the level of Catching Fire, which is still the best in the franchise, in my opinion, but I thought this was a decent bookend, and outside of the length and some of the other choices that they made as far as the story goes, I think this is a decent one, and you will not be disappointed. And at least get your money's worth. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to my little sliver of the internet and my view on Mockingjay Part 2. If you've seen it, please leave your comments down below. Love to hear your constructive thoughts. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. We're growing in subs every day. We're getting closer to 1,000. I can smell it, and it's all because of you guys I do this. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the support, and until next time, keep that ticket stub.